Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to a Wednesday edition of the Pewter Report podcast. I am Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report. I'm going to be your host for probably the next couple of minutes. Matt Matera will be joining me. He is stuck in some traffic heading home from the Advent Health Training Center, otherwise known as One Buck in Your Place. But we've got an action-packed show for you today, talking about the Bucs and the Packers. This is a great matchup. Boy, when I started covering this team, this Buccaneer team back in 1995, the Bucs and Packers were division rivals in the old NFC North, or I should say Central Division. What was it called? The NFC North Division, right? Because you had Green Bay and Minnesota and Detroit and Tampa Bay. You had all those teams up in the north, and then the Buccaneers were the newcomers down there in the south. So we've got a lot to cover today. We have some roster moves that were expected and a couple that maybe weren't expected. But I'm Scott Reynolds, and I'm going to be with you for the next couple minutes before Matt joins us. So excited to talk some Bucs football with you all today. I'm especially excited about some of these roster moves. The Buccaneers brought back a defensive tackle. No, it was not Ndamukong Suh. It was Khalil Davis, their sixth-round pick from a couple years ago out of Nebraska. I liked Khalil Davis in terms of his ability to rush the passer, and he was kind of a quick, athletic defensive tackle, and almost didn't fit what the Buccaneers were looking for a couple years ago when they wanted the bigger, beefier guys like Ndamukong Suh up front. But now that they want more athletic guys that can get after the quarterback, it seems like Davis is a better fit now than he was even then. He has been signed to the practice squad. But of course, there is a new practice squad guy that has got a little bit more name recognition than Khalil Davis. And of course, talking about Cole Beasley, former Buffalo Bills wide receiver, spent the last 3 years in Buffalo and ended up catching 82 passes in back-to-back seasons, playing that slot receiver role. And right now, the Buccaneers need somebody that can step in and catch the ball. We saw an awful lot of drops against the New Orleans Saints in Sunday's 20-10 victory. And we just got through having a Victory Monday show on Monday, and we appreciate everybody participating and taking part in that. But I would suspect that Cole Beasley will be brought up sooner rather than later. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it up for this Sunday's game. Remember, it's not like Cole Beasley doesn't know the playbook, because he doesn't. It's also the fact that he did not go to training camp with any team, nor did he spend an off-season program with the team. So he is coming in just fresh off of the street, and almost like Richard Sherman last year in that capacity. Sherman was forced into action. We'll see if that's the case with Beasley, or if this team feels they can get the job done with Breshad Perriman, who caught the game winner. Fortunately, there's not going to be Mike Evans. There's no surprise there. Evans was, of course, denied his appeal. We did not expect him to win that appeal on Monday. We talked about that. So Evans will not be playing against the Packers. And we'll see about Julio Jones. We'll have the injury report when that comes out. But Russell Gage is going to have to step up. He is playing with a hamstring injury that, from what I've been told, is limiting his production and his effectiveness. But Breshad Perriman, I talked to him today in the locker room. We'll get into a lot of locker room conversations today. Perriman had that touchdown catch against P.J. Williams. And I said, Breshad, you're one of those guys that kind of flies under the radar, right? You understand your order on the depth chart, right? It's Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and now it's Russell Gage and Julio Jones. And then it's you. But when those players aren't playing, you find a way to step up. And you've had a couple of big moments. Back in 2019, Breshad Perriman, in his first year with the Buccaneers, had 3 100-yard games in a row to end the season. That was when Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Scotty Miller were all on injured reserve. And then, of course, there was the walk-off touchdown over 50 yards against the Buffalo Bills in overtime. That was his signature big play last year. So he caught his second touchdown pass from Tom Brady, and that came at the expense of Williams there. And I asked him about that play. I said, it looked like you kind of set Williams up a little bit, because you were running full speed towards the end zone on that 28-yard touchdown. And then you kind of slowed down right around the first down, or the end zone in the first pylon, and then you kind of accelerated towards the back of the end zone. And he says, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I kind of wanted to create some separation there because I was tracking the ball the whole way, and I could see PJ was a step behind me, but then closing. And so I wanted to kind of lull him to sleep a little bit around the goal line and then accelerate and have a little bit of separation to make that catch, make it an easier catch. And that's certainly what it was. And the Buccaneers, of course, took a 10 to nothing, or I should say 10-3 lead at that point in time, and then went up to 13-3 before Mike Edwards' touchdown came on that pick six. But Rashad Perriman's going to have to step up. Russell Gage is going to have to step up. Julio Jones, we'll see if he can play on Sunday. The team is hopeful that he will. And then, of course, you have Scotty Miller, who started the game with a nice catch, but then dropped a couple of passes that, at this NFL level, you got to make those catches. You got to make those plays for Tom Brady. And so without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and maybe Julio Jones this week, you're going to have to see a lot of Rashad Perriman in this passing game step up for Tom Brady. It's interesting because, and we'll get to our Packers Bucs preview in just a minute, but in watching the Packers against the Chicago Bears, as Mark Cook would say, legendary Mark Cook. Love that guy and I miss him. But when you look at that game, and what the Packers are offensively, they're not the team that they were a couple of years ago when they had Davante Adams, and now the Buccaneers, they're kind of lacking some wide receivers. So it's almost a mirror of offensive teams that are trying to run the football to help their quarterback with the running game. And we'll get into that in a minute. But first, folks, if you didn't know, I got to tell you, the Pewter Report podcast is energized by Celsius. That's the official energy drink of Pewter Report. I've had a Celsius this morning. It's replaced coffee for me. I had the orange flavor. That's my go-to. And I love it. I also have, fondness for the peach vibe. That's up there in the top 5. The Fuji apple pear is one of my favorites. Ashley's favorite is watermelon. Folks, if you're looking for an energy drink that's going to give you the energy without the sugar crash, you got to try Celsius. Why? Because there is no sugar crash, because there's no sugar and there's no preservatives. There's 7 essential vitamins in each can, and the taste is absolutely phenomenal. They've got the Vibe series and the newest flavor, which is Arctic Vibe, which is absolutely phenomenal. And you got the Tropical Vibe and the Peach Vibe. So if you want to find out more about Celsius and try a can, you've been hearing us talk about it for years. We love it. We all drink Celsius on the Pewter Report squad. Go to Celsius.com, click on the store locator, type in your address, find a location near you that sells it, whether it's a health and fitness store, a convenience store, grocery store, and grab a couple cans, try some different flavors. Once you find the flavor that you like, or flavors, because there's going to be more than one, go to Amazon, buy them in bulk, and they'll ship them to your house, and you can use the subscribe and save feature, and you can save some money while you are drinking your Celsius. That's always a great thing when Celsius is delivered to my house. So make sure Celsius is in your fridge and feel the energy that you're going to get from Celsius. And now we're going to feel Matt Matera's energy because he joins us today. Matt, it's a mad dash for me to get from One Buck Place to Wesley Chapel. You live closer, but still traffic can be traffic, my friend.
Yeah, especially when it starts raining. It was beautiful when we got to the Advent Health Training Center today. And then, right when we were done with the open locker room, we're preparing for the podcast, getting different videos up and all things of that sort. And of course, it starts raining. Luckily, it stopped raining by the time I left the facility. But,
yep.
That's still all the wetness on the road causes other people to be slower. So
yes.
A little bit of heavy traffic, a little bit of laptop issues, trying to get some downloads going so we can get it on the Matt, podcast. But I'm here. I'm here. I'm ready to talk Bucs Packers.
I'm a defensive-minded guy, and the Bucs defense has had to carry this offense for the first couple of weeks of the season. I've carried you for the first 10 minutes of this podcast. It's all good. It's complimentary podcast. It's complimentary football.
That.
That's what we're all about.
Much is.
And we appreciate John Oakes for the $4.99 super chat. He says, oops, I have my first super chat without a message. That's okay, John. We got you covered.
Right.
And we appreciate your first super chat. That's
Yeah.
awesome. We appreciate everybody's super chats. That's what helps fund the place. So we appreciate everything that the Buck fans give us in the way of their generosity. And of course, with super chats, your comments and your questions will always get played on our podcast, and questions will get answered. Do you see the Bucs being able to get the ball to Lenny and Rashad, assuming he catches the first one, out of the backfield more on Sunday? And you know what? I think we will see them more involved in the passing game, especially without Mike Evans. And if Julio Jones maybe doesn't play, and we'll see what his practice status is during the week, we could see that. Russell Gage has been slowed a little bit. So it's kind of funny. Right before you came on, I said the Packers offense is really mirroring what the Bucs offense is doing right now in terms of getting their running backs and using them to drive the offense, whether it's Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon running the ball, or if it's them catching the ball. And we'll just dive right into our previews here. Matt already went over the Cole Beasley edition and Khalil Mack, and they did put Josh Wells and Rakeem Hicks on injured reserve, as we predicted. Wrote about those last night. Todd Bowles mentioned those guys being out for some time, certainly for Sunday's game, and that's the case. But when you look at this Packers team, and I kind of see a little bit of a mirror image, right? Because you've got a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who is old and still firing away, just like Tom Brady. But at the same time, you've got a running back, right, who's doing damn good things, and Aaron Jones, kind of like what Leonard Fournette is doing, and he could help you in the running game as well as the passing game. And they also do the same thing with AJ Dillon. I mean, he's a big back that is hard to bring down, and I think that the 1-2 punch between Jones and Dillon, it's gonna pose some problems. It certainly did for the Bears last week, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get these guys involved in the running game and the passing game. One of the stats that jumped out to me, Matt, was A.J. Dillon is leading the Packers in targets with 9 so far, and Aaron Jones has got 8. Romeo Doubs, the rookie receiver, also has 8. So Aaron Rodgers is looking either for checkdowns or mismatches with his running backs so far in these first 2 weeks in the passing game.
Yeah, they're making life pretty good for Aaron Rodgers because he doesn't have to drop back all the time and sling it around like he's had to in the past. Now, some of that, of course, when you have Davante Adams as your wide receiver, you're more inclined to do that because he's one of the best receivers in the game. But that's not the case anymore. He's over in Las Vegas. I was going to say Oakland, but they're over in Las Vegas. And to your point, the Packers absolutely ran the crap out of the ball on Sunday night when they beat up on the Chicago Bears. It was, as you said, a 1-2 punch. And that was a big thing that, a lot of the Packers media and Packers brass was talking about, that in their first loss to the Minnesota Vikings, which is now a common theme for the Packers, that they just play terribly week 1. Aaron Jones only got 8 touches. And it was insane that a player that talented only saw the ball that many times. So they obviously corrected that in week 2 against the Bears. And sure, the Bears have their own problems, but they showed that they can get it done with both running backs, whether it's Jones. Jones had a lot more rushing yards in this game, went over 100 yards, where Dillon, obviously, especially, is fearsome at the goal line. A little bit more of the thunder of the Thunder and Lightning duo. If you go back to the Tiki Barber and Ron Dane days for the old New York Giants. So that's obviously something that the Bucs have to key in on, where they allowed 100 rushing yards against the Saints, and very different. Taysom Hill was involved in that a little bit. I actually thought the Saints should have used Taysom Hill a lot more than they did. He did, get a huge run. And now with Rakeem Hicks not in there, oddly, in a weird way, I'm not saying overall it's better for the Bucs, but stopping the run with Nacho in there, I think, is actually going to help the Bucs in some sort. It certainly takes away from the pass rush, but that's why you have Shaq and JTS. So I think those are the first 2 guys you really have to key in on when you're looking at the Packers, offensive style for this game.
And it's interesting, right? We're only 2 weeks into the season, so it's a small sample size. We can't really make a whole bunch of decisions other than some snap judgments on who the Packers are offensively, because like the Buccaneers, they're trying to figure that out right now without Davante Adams in the mix, right? And Alan Lazard, only 3 targets so far. So Sammy Watkins, the newcomer's been big for Aaron Rodgers. But what's interesting about this game is you've got two teams in the Buccaneers and the Packers from a defensive standpoint that are absolutely dynamite on third downs, right? If you look back at the Bears-Packers game, the Bears were held to 1 of 7 on third downs. And that's awful. The last time I checked, that's really bad. And so
not winning football for
it's
sure.
not winning football. Exactly. And they were 0-1 on fourth down, right? And the Bears only had 48 net yards passing when you factor in a couple sacks. So Justin Fields, say what you want. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. 7 of 11 passing, but the Packers, conversely, on the other side of the ball, were 5 of 9 on third down. And Matt, for the Buccaneers offense, which has struggled on third downs, they're going up against a very good third down defense. They're going to have to play much better. And that 5 of 9 on third downs that the Packers achieved against the Bears, that's going to make the Bucs offense a little jealous, right?
Oh, it has to, because the Bucs are looking at that saying, hey, that was us. We were the team that could really get it done on third down. And I thought at times in the game against the Saints, it was almost a similar story to when they played the Cowboys, where they could move the ball across midfield. I thought they actually did a solid job on a couple of third downs early in the game in that first quarter. And later in the third and the fourth quarter after the fight, they did a lot better in those areas. But yeah, I mean, once you get to the red zone, it of course becomes an issue again. Yeah. And I think Todd Bowles really summed it up best when talking about the issues in the red zone, and especially, the fourth and goal, not fourth and goal, but the 4th and 1, in that red zone. He just went, we got to find a way to get a yard. And I think that really comes down, we got to find a way to get a yard, whether it's Leonard Fournette in there. I mean, he played like 85% of the snap, though it's mostly going to be. But yeah, this has been one really big change for the Bucs on offense, is that, they are dynamite in the red zone, great on third down.
Right.
It hasn't totally been the case these first 2 weeks of the season. Do I think that corrected? Yes, I do.
Yeah, and again, small sample size, just 2 games, but they were 65% on third downs last year, and this year less than 40% to start the season. So we'll see if they can get some traction. Maybe that might be part of playing on the road. This Buccaneer team has been very good playing on the road since Bruce Arians got here in 2019. Matter of fact, in 2019, they won more road games than they won on home games. But last year, while going 13-4, they only lost once at home. So they've had their best home record last year. They went 7-1 last year at home, and that's the most wins they've ever had. And you throw in that playoff win against the Eagles at home, and then of course the loss to the Rams. But they finished 8-2 at home. That's their best record ever at Raymond James Stadium in a single season. So maybe being at home helps this offense click a little bit better. They don't have the crowd noise to deal with. And maybe that helps things. But again, the Packers have got a really, really good third down defense as well. A couple questions about Cole Beasley. We'll get to him in a second. But I've been seeing some questions here in the chat about the running back position. And there was one here. I think Vaughn deserves another look. Rashad has been ineffective. Yeah. I think that the Bucs probably coming to that conclusion too. And you're certainly going to see Keyshawn Vaughn active this week, Matt, because Giovanni Bernard is on injured reserve.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to seeing Keyshawn Vaughn get a little bit more action. That window of opportunity is now opened with the injury to Gio Bernard. And for the long haul, I'm not exactly worried about Rachaad White. I really just think it's a matter of, he's getting his feet wet in the NFL. And I bet you, 5 weeks from now, he makes that catch that he dropped in week 2 when Tom Brady was throwing him the ball. I think for every running back, it's very different. Yeah. I don't even want to say his name, but like Ronald Jones had a awful rookie season and then got together for 1 year, and he actually looked like a formidable running back before we found out that, he can't pass block or receive. But there was a time when Ronald Jones was a factor in the Bucs offense, especially in that 2020 season. So, Rachaad White is already a step ahead than Ronald Jones, and that's the last I'll talk about Rojo. But I just think with Keyshawn Vaughn, he's still a young guy, but with the experience that he has on this team, being here, I believe this is his 3rd season, I think it's going to be so crucial the reps that he had last year when the running
Right.
back room was decimated. Rojo was out.
Yes.
Leonard Fournette was out. They had to sign Le'Veon Bell off the street. He's now knocking out Adrian Peterson in
Right.
boxing matches.
That's
So, like,
right.
all you had was Keyshawn Vaughn, and he had the highlight play and against the Panthers, that long touchdown run, that scamper, if you will. I just think he's a guy that we've talked about has progressed a lot in training camp and the preseason. And the only reason why he's really been inactive is just the numbers game with Fournette, who's obviously the guy, the horse of this running back room. White, who's extremely exciting, and I think will be the more he gets comfortable playing in the NFL. And then Bernard, of course, is just that savvy veteran. But I think Bernard, I mean, this is very early. We'll see how long he's out for, but he's already on IR.
Yeah.
I think this is probably his last go of it in Tampa, if not his career. He's just his bones are made of glass at this point. That's no disrespect.
He keeps getting hurt. He's in his 30s, and I think this is going to be the kind of the changing of the guard. The Bucs like Giovanni Bernard, but the best kind of ability is availability, and you can't help the club in the tub. I mean, all those cliche, trite sayings, they're true. And I think that when you look at Giovanni Bernard, Keyshawn Vaughn's going to get this opportunity. He had a great training camp. I mean, I've not been the biggest Keyshawn Vaughn fan. He impressed me in training camp, catching the ball better. Matt, that's something you and I noticed. We're out there during training camp practices. He had a great game against Tennessee. I thought he ran the ball very well. He seems like he's taken some steps. And at this point in time, I'd rather see Keyshawn Vaughn active than Giovanni Bernard, even when Bernard comes back healthy. This is a third-year running back. You got to kind of see what he can do to see if maybe he can be, is he a future number 2? Can he beat out Rachaad White? I mean, this team likes White, and I do too. Not ready to throw in the towel, but at the same time, when you get handoffs, you got to run, you got to get yards. And when Tom Brady throws you the ball, you got to catch it, right? Yeah. So this is a fast-moving train, and you're either on the train or you're not. And I think right now, Rachaad White is kind of hanging on to the train, kind of like doing one of those things from the movies where he's trying to jump on the train right from behind, and we'll see if that's the case. But we're going to see some Keyshawn Vaughn here too. We've also seen a couple super chats. Kevin Purvis, finally able to catch a live show. Y'all do an amazing job. Keep it up. Thank you. Appreciate the super chat. Also need recommendations for places to see. I'll be in Tampa for the Rams game. Well, that's awesome. We appreciate the super chat, Kevin. Places to see, I would definitely say if you're watching college football on Saturday before the game, you got to go to Walk-Ons. Walk-Ons is the place. We're partnered with them, but the reason why we're partnered with them is because they're really good. Great food, TVs galore. It's our place to go for Pewter Report Tailgate Show. That's the Celsius Pewter Report Tailgate Show presented by Age Rejuvenation live at Walk-Ons. And we've got 2 locations, Walk-Ons in Wesley Chapel up here by my neck of the woods, the Midtown Tampa location, which is where we were at last week. That was closer to Matt's house, down there by the stadium. We're going to be up at Wesley Chapel this week. Bailey Adams, J.C. Allen, and John Gilmore, former Bucs tight end, are going to be doing our live Pewter Report tailgate show from Walk-Ons. Absolutely fantastic food. And that chicken sandwich looks dynamite, and it is. I've had it. I've had their mozzarella logs. They're not sticks. They're logs. They're amazing. Yeah. The boudin balls. The food is fantastic at Walk-On City. I would say there. Then I would also say Ybor City. It's just kind of a classic Tampa place. Great restaurants down there. Good bar scene. You know, I think Ybor City is still
100%, Scott. And if you want to get a little food too, if you're bouncing around from bar to bar, I was in Ybor this weekend. I got a little pizza at New York Pizza.
Good place.
You know what drinks that they have at New York?
Was it Pirate Republic?
They have all 3 Pirate Republics.
Yeah.
I was so pumped. I told my friends, I was like, guys, we're getting this. We're getting
Matt,
the Pirate Republic.
That's such good news. I'm going to crack one open right now. I just am. And we'll do the Pirate Republic read later, and I'll continue to drink my beer later. But we have another super chat we need to get to. So I definitely appreciate the little plug there for Pirate Republic. Matt, Joel Dalton, I'm an Australian, not normally up at this hour. Love your coverage. How do we fix your line, mate?
That's pretty good. Good day, mate. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Don't know what they use over in Australia, but thank you. Anyway, he says, well, you already did the accent.
Sorry for brutalizing your language, man, but it's just funny. I didn't do, put another shrimp on the bobby, so I didn't do that. So you can't penalize me for that. But Matt, go ahead.
Well, it's a good question. How do we fix the offensive line? Well, there's only so much fixing you can do when you're down to your third string offensive tackle. It's not really a matter of, putting in another player. And Brandon Walton, I think, did play very solid when he was put into the game. I really think, again, we have to look at the offensive line in its entirety. And as we keep saying, it's a small sample size.
Yeah.
But after the first game, would we all say, we need to fix the offensive line? We'd say in the run game, no, not at all. They ran for 150 yards. No issues there. Got to clean it up in the pass coverage.
Right.
Second game, wow. They did a pretty good job protecting Tom Brady. He only was sacked one time.
Yeah.
Damn. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1.
That's where they struggle.
So it's been a little Jekyll and Hyde with the run game the run game and run blocking and the passing game, and particularly pass blocking. So I just think, and it goes back a little bit to the predictability of what Byron Leftwich is going to call and just the variety of what they call in the run game. I would love to see a lot more motion. I know they've run a little bit more like jet sweeps than they did at all of last year. They didn't start doing that until like the second to last game of the season. Now we're seeing it from the get-go. But I just think get a little more creative with the tosses to the outside.
I agree.
Get Tristan Wirfs in space. Scotty Miller had a nice, jet sweep to the outside. He ended up getting called back because of a holding penalty, but that was on wide receiver Jalen Darden, and Scotty was already up the field, had already gotten that first down. So it was nothing on the offensive line there. And I think even if Darden, it was like a very ticky-tack call, in my opinion. It was very close where, even if he lets the guy go, they still get the first down. So I would it's not necessarily fixing the offensive line. I think it's just helping out the offensive line with playing to their strengths. If you run it towards Ugedeke's side, smash the hole. Make sure you get there because he's more of a running offensive lineman. Where, if you want to pass block too, Walton showed that he can do that. So I think it's just more creativity and variety than it is actually fixing.
I agree. I would like to, and it kind of goes against, the principles of it, because I would like to see big 240-pound Leonard Fournette and big MGM says any news on Donovan Smith. I don't think we're going to see Donovan Smith this week. I think it's going to be Brandon Walton.
Did not practice today.
Yep.
Didn't even see him in the locker room. So,
right. Yep. He's getting treatment. I think we're going to see Brandon Walton get his first start, and we'll see if he's going to do better. That's going to be one of the big matchups, right? With those two tackles. The Packers pass rush is not nearly as diverse as Tampa Bay's. There's really two guys you have to kind of be concerned about. Preston Smith on one side, he's got 2 sacks this season through 2 games, and Rashawn Gary on the other, right? Those are the two guys that they lean on to get their pass rush. Oh, and by the way, guess what? There's only 2 guys that have sacks. The Packers with 4 sacks through 2 games compared to Tampa Bay, who's leading the league with 10 sacks in 2 games. So they rely a lot on Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary to provide that pressure from the outside. You'll see Kenny Clark, the defensive tackle up front, the team captain, who is, he's still a damn good player. Yeah. And if you remember when Alex Kappa was out and Aaron Stinney was in that NFC Championship game back in 2020, I think Tom Brady only got sacked once, and it was Kenny Clark beating Aaron Stinney. So, but Preston Smith he's a problem. He's a big dude that is, I think, a more physical type of player, almost like a Cam Jordan type. And then you've got Rashawn Gary, who is more of that athletic type. If you're going to, to look at him, he's more closer to, say, Marcus Davenport. Right? Just looking at last week's game and who Brandon Walton battled with and who Tristan Wirfs battled with. But Kenny Clark can be a problem inside for the center and the 2 guards. But I agree with you, Matt. I think that when you look at what the Packers were able to do on third downs, that was key. But it wasn't like the Bears couldn't run the ball. Even though they struggled on third down, they ran the ball for a pretty good clip, 180 yards on the ground last week. And that's pretty amazing, because what that tells me is is when you've got a team running for 180 yards, but they're terrible on first down or on third downs. That means on first and second down, they're breaking off some chunk runs. And we saw Khalil Herbert have a 27-yarder against the Packers. David Montgomery had a 28-yarder. Justin Fields scrambled a couple times for 20 yards. But Montgomery had 122 yards on the ground. So that might kind of be a little bit of the chink in their armor. And I think the Buccaneers are going to try to stay balanced again this week, Matt. It just makes sense because you don't want to get Smith and Rashawn Gary going on third downs, and you want to get into third and short situations. You want to convert them, but you don't want them teeing off on Tom Brady, especially Brandon Walton's side, where he's going to feel the pressure maybe of starting his first game. It's going to be at home. Sometimes with these backup players, Matt, it's almost better to come off the bench right when bullets are flying and you just got to step in and do it. You can't think about it, right?
Exactly. You're not overthinking anything. You're just in there, and in a weird way, it's like when you come off the bench, it's like, all right, just hold down the fort. We're not expecting you to, lead the team to victory. You just have to do your part and make sure that you get it going. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very similar game plan to essentially what they've done the whole season. Again, just 2 games, but I think you're going to see a lot of help from Cade Otton and Key chipping, Smith and Gary, depending on where they want to line them up. Obviously, they're going to try to take advantage with Walton in the game. And it's tough to go up against Tristan Wirfs
really
at all. And Bucs fans are not going to be worried about that. So,
well, I'll say this. Even if the Buccaneers don't have their best performance on Sunday, according to Nick, this is the best podcast ever. And we're already 31 minutes into it, Matt. I feel pretty good about it. I feel like this is the best Pewter Report podcast that we've done, and I'm excited about that. We do have a comment here from Will the Brewer. Better than your English voice, Scott. And when talking about my Australian voice, apparently, I don't know. I think my English voice, Willington for Avalon. I think that's even better. God bless the Queen. May she rest in peace. I don't know. I think that's pretty good.
No, yeah, it's solid. It's definitely better than the
all right,
Australian
Matt.
one.
We've got a little bit of stereotyping here from Les Evans. We appreciate the $5 super chat. Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman, and now Brady has Cole Beasley. Does he like small white slot receivers? Yes, historically that's a fact. We're not trying to say anything that people are not aware of. I mean, that's a stereotype that he likes. I also think he likes 6'5" wide receiver Mike Evans. I think he likes Chris Godwin in the slot in this offense after catching 98 passes from Tom. I think he likes Brashad Perriman on that 28-yard. I think Tom Brady likes anybody that can catch the ball, and I think that's why they brought Cole Beasley in here because Tom said if we're not going to have Chris for a couple weeks, and if Julio gets banged up again, and he's on and off, and Mike, who knows, but I got to have somebody I can catch the ball. Or that I can throw the ball to and they'll catch it. And I think that's why Cole Beasley's here, not just because he's that stereotypical white slot receiver, right?
It is funny to poke that joke, though, because I practiced today. You're watching Cole Beasley warm up, and it's like, oh, wow, like they're really going back to like the old Tom Brady style of offense, just all these short wide receivers. And then, you got Brashad Perriman in there.
Yeah.
We'll see if Beasley is a factor in this game, especially if Julio Jones doesn't play. Now, we got to speak to Cole Beasley in the locker room after practice today, and turns out that he's been wanting to be a Buck for a little while, especially after all these injuries. He was up in Tom Brady's DMs, letting him know, hey, man, I'm available if you need me. So here's Beasley talking about hitting up Tom, and then also just trying to understand this playbook and if he could be ready by Sunday, because, he literally just got here yesterday.
I'm gonna be honest. I was hitting him up a lot. so I think a lot of guys got banged up a little bit in here, so it gave me an opportunity to come in here and get some work and get him to look at me a little bit. So I don't know what my role is going to be at this moment, but I'm just coming in humble and just ready to be a part of it. I think so. I mean, I won't know everything, but it's a little easier when you're just studying a game plan, not the whole offense. So at least know.
How much does Tom help the situation?
Well, I just got here yesterday, so I've mainly been with the receivers coach a little bit. Other than that, just been talking with the receivers.
How weird was it being out?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting what he had to say about, like, he's going to try to pick up the playbook as much as he can, but it actually helps when you get in the season because you design specific plays for certain schemes that you're really just doing against, like for this week, the Packers defense that you might not see, when they play against the Steelers in a couple of weeks. So I thought it was interesting what he had to say there. And then lobbying to play with Tom Brady. We've seen many players come to Tampa because Tom Brady is here, whether it's Leonard Fournette, whether it's Russell Gage. So just add Cole Beasley to the list of, Brady being the ultimate recruiter, even though Brady maybe wasn't necessarily looking for him, but kind of fell into his lap this time.
It's interesting. I'm just going to address this just really quick here. Just my opinion. He says he refused to get vaxxed, which is why he was a free agent. I don't know that that's true because there's no more COVID protocols this year in the league, right? I think you have to look at the fact that Cole Beasley's 33 and, he's 5'8", 174 pounds. He's smaller than Scotty Miller. So he's not going to be a great fit in everybody's system, right? He's got to be a certain fit. And I will say this, I'm not trying to put anybody, talking about anything with regards to the vax. People can make up their own mind about the vaccine. And honestly, I think we're kind of past that because there is no more COVID protocols in the league. We're in an open locker room doing our job. There's no more masks, etc. Having said that, I think generally speaking, NFL teams don't like players that are distractions or that can be distractions. And I think whether it's Colin Kaepernick or Tim Tebow, Cole Beasley, that might have been a reason, right? Because he's very outspoken on Twitter. And if you're outspoken on Twitter and you are, a LeBron James type player, where like you're the star of the show,
face of
that's
the league,
different, right? There's two sets of rules. It's are you really outspoken about topic A, B, C, or D, or whatever? And are you a star player? We'll put up with that and we'll carry on. But if you are outspoken about topic A, B, C, or D on Twitter and you are a role player, that can be a different story because you can be a distraction, good, bad, or indifferent. And the interesting thing is Cole Beasley, who is very outspoken on Twitter about COVID and other things, has taken his Twitter down. I think that's kind of noteworthy. I don't know if that was the team saying take it down or Cole Beasley saying, I want a fresh start, I'm going to take it down. But I think he's here just to catch passes, be a Buccaneer, and play football. And based upon all the drops we saw on Sunday, Tom Brady needs somebody else that can catch the ball.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it with Scotty Miller, a lot of issues there. I'm not saying he's going to play the Scotty Miller role because Beasley can line up in the slot, and Scotty Miller is an outside wide receiver. That's a common misconception there. And Scott, it might be a good thing that Beasley deleted his Twitter because we had posted today. There was a wild sequence in practice today. When Cole Beasley was returning punts and, gained some traction on social media. But, he was back returning punts, and the first one he happened to muff. And a lot of crazy stuff went on. So I'll just play the video and we could talk about it right after. Okay, apparently the video is not playing. I don't know why, but
it played here on my end. I saw it.
Okay, why don't you try it?
Yeah. Well, it just was interesting, right? Because he fielded the punt and then he got his helmet knocked off. Keefe comes down, right? And knocks his helmet off. And then he kind of kept going, but it was an interesting first day at work for Cole Beasley on that particular play. And it was interesting he was out there catching punts too, because we've only really seen Jalen Darden, he lost his kick return job. And now he's returning punts, and he did an okay job returning punts.
He's been better than last season.
Right.
And that's important.
But even when Mike Evans was gone, we didn't really see a whole bunch more of Jalen Darden on the field. And, of course, that holding penalty, when you're out there for a couple plays, folks, you got to make them count, and you can't have negative plays because then coaches can't trust you. And so I just wonder if Cole Beasley, once he's active on the roster, if Jalen Darden does not do well on punt returns, Cole Beasley, I think Cole Beasley is going to take Scotty Miller's roster spot when it's all said and done. And he might end up taking Jalen Darden's spot on the 46-man active roster when it's all said and done, too.
It definitely could be a possibility. See, I never know with these things because we'll see so many different players go back and return punts. Like Sean Murphy-Bunting's been back there. We've talked a lot about Scotty being back there, but they don't utilize him in the game. So I think right now is probably more of like
seeing what he can do.
But let's see how he looks as a punt returner. So I still think it is Darden's job, but if he's not going to play wide receiver much or commit these penalties when he is in the game, it's definitely something where Beasley can take advantage of and get more of those reps because outside of Rashad Perriman making that great touchdown catch, we haven't seen much from any of the other wide receivers. Like Scotty, again, all of those targets and not much to show for it except for a couple of catches to get first downs. But they were like deeply spread out between the good and a lot of the bad before the good came back a little bit. And we're not seeing a lot of Darden, and Tyler Johnson's not here anymore. So it's kind of and Russell Gage has been let's call a spade a spade. It's been a little disappointing so far through 2 games.
Right. I agree.
Whether it's injuries or just still fitting in this offense, there hasn't been that click that we saw in training camp. And, it's surprising when it's someone like Gage, when it's Darden, it's like, all right, I get it. He's new.
But your $10 million receiver, right? That's a different story. Well, the interesting thing is we were at Todd Bowles' press conference today, and they need some help catching the ball on the offensive side. And as we kind of transition from looking at the offense, where just to kind of summarize, the Bucs are going to have to be better on third downs going up against this tough Green Bay third down defense. I think that's going to be the tail of the tape. It's going to be turnovers for sure, but it's also going to be which team performs better on third downs because both of these third down defenses are just about where they're in the top 10. I think they're in the top 5 as well. So the Bucs offense is going to have to do a much better job, whether it's third and short and it's running the ball or whether it's third and long, catching the ball. But, Mike Edwards has got some of the best hands on the team. If you watched Mike, he was mic'd up by the Buccaneers, and actually Lavonte David's going to be mic'd up for this game. It's just a little inside scoop there. But Mike Edwards was mic'd up for the Saints game when he had to pick 6. And he told Jalen Darden, these hands are certified.
Yeah, so he told Sean Murphy-Bunting before the game, these hands are certified. And then he told Jalen Darden, this is after Jamel Dean's second interception, and he's sitting next to Darden on the bench, and he goes,
that's right, yes.
And he goes, how much you want to bet I get an interception next? And they shook on it, and then he got the pick 6. Right. And of course, he celebrated with the defense on the field. But, once he was heading back towards the sideline, Jalen Darden was like the first offensive player to go over and congratulate him. So, literally betting on himself,
That's right.
You got to respect that.
So we have Todd Bowles talking about Mike Edwards possibly playing some wide receiver. And then in the same clip you're going to see, talking about Jamel Dean's diving end zone interception against Chris Olave. Poor Jameis Winston. He just couldn't connect with Olave all day. And then when he did, Olave fumbled, recovered by Carlton Davis. So here's Todd Bowles talking about Mike Edwards and Jamel Dean.
About them quite a bit. Any consideration of maybe using him at receiver at a time?
He has great hands and he has great receiver hands, but with the lineman almost catching him, no. He did have safety responsibilities on that play. We know he can run. I'm glad he came down with it. Dean seems to catch the hard ones and drop the easy ones. So, he makes 2 great plays. We just got to tell the quarterbacks don't throw it straight at him.
4.29 speed, I mean.
You got it.
That's great about Todd Bowles, Matt. We're seeing now more of Bowles' personality and that sarcasm that he likes to use towards his players. Bruce Arians would drop some F-bombs and get all red-faced and angry, kind of like what he did on the sidelines, where he got a letter of reprimand from the league for his verbal role in the altercation between Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans on Sunday. But with Bowles, it's little digs, it's sarcasm, it's things like that. And And so that was good to see and funny. And when you look too, I was talking to Mike Edwards today in the locker room, and believe it or not, Edwards led the team in interceptions last year with 3, mostly as a role player. Mm-hmm. Last year he had 2 pick sixes. But I asked him about how he felt about Jamel Dean having the current team lead with 2, and he was not happy about it. And he says, well, as a matter of fact, the safeties on this team, we have a bet against the cornerbacks that we're going to end up with more interceptions, right?
So, yeah, I spoke to Jamel Dean, and I asked him, like, does he have bragging rights against the rest of the DB room? And he said, no, it's actually what you're saying is it's cornerbacks against safeties in that competition. I wonder where Antoine Winfield Jr. falls into it.
According to Edwards, he's a safety. So he said right now it's tied. And he said that we actually had more interceptions than the corners last year, and they never paid up. They have to pay their debt. So they have got to pay up first. And I said, is this like a double or nothing year? And Edwards said, no, we want to get paid now. We want the corners to pay up, and then we'll beat them again this year. So something interesting to see there. One of the things, and I wrote about this menacing Bucs defense on pewterreport.com. It may be Matt if you can find that story on pewterreport.com and drop it in the chat here. One of the things that I wanted to kind of highlight today as we're talking about this Bucs Packers preview, and if you remember, Aaron Rodgers got sacked several times. I want to say 5 times in that game. I actually think he got sacked 4, and then the backup quarterback got sacked once. But he threw 2 interceptions, one of which was to Mike Edwards, and one of which was to Jamel Dean, who had a pick 6 in that game. Turned around that game in the regular season in 2020 at 38-10 win over the Packers. And the thing about Devin White that I've noticed this year that's made him a successful blitzer, he's got 3 sacks to lead the team. He had 1, should have had 2 in that game against New Orleans, is how they're blitzing him. We've seen a couple times, more so in that Dallas game, where Devin White, Matt, will go right up to the line of scrimmage and stand in that A gap and either show blitz or fake a blitz, and he'll drop out in coverage. But what that did was, and I talked to Lavonte David about this today, what that did was that telegraphed to the quarterback, hey, I'm going to come in this A gap, and I got enough speed. I'm going to blow past the guard in the center, and I'm going to be a problem. And you got to deal with me right off the bat. The problem is, even a guy like Mac Jones saw that, knew it was coming, and with Devin coming 100 miles an hour, could sidestep. And that's why we saw Devin White miss some sacks last year. This is why we're seeing Devin White get home this year. I'm going to play this video a couple times because it's very brief, and I don't have the ability on StreamYard here to stop and start it. So we're going to play it a couple times, but watch Devin White. He's the middle linebacker. You'll see him come through right there and get this sack on Jameis Winston. Okay, well, we're gonna watch it again, and you'll see him. It's a delayed blitz, so he lets all the action happen up front, and you see Shaq Barrett beat his guy and come inside, and you see Devin White wait, and then boom, see the opening, and then come in, and Jameis Winston is not focused on Devin White, and there's no sidestepping at Devin White. Plus, too, he's also contained inside the pocket. It's not as immediate. It's not that 1 second blitz right off the snap that we saw Devin White get some in 2020. He had 9 sacks, and some of those sacks came on those type of immediate A-gap blitzes. But what we're seeing now is we're seeing this delayed blitz, and Devin's still fast enough to get home, right? Let's count this rep here, okay? Let's play this one. Here we go. 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, sack. 3 seconds. Yeah. Boom, he's gone. Now, here's the interesting thing. We're gonna play this again. Watch the heat that's coming from Jamel Dean, who blitzes on this play, along with Mike Edwards, right? So you see an overload on that right side of the Bucs defense against the left side of the Saints offensive line. In 3 sacks, Jameis Winston's on the ground. In 2 seconds, he has to step up into the pocket. Now, watch the slot receiver and watch the responsibility of Lavonte David, right? This is a mismatch right here, but Jameis can't get to him. You see, David is going right down the middle of the field, and that receiver's got a step or 2 on him. I'm going to play it again so you can see it, but it doesn't matter because the pressure package happens so quickly that White has got him on the ground. And so that's what Bowles likes to do in these man coverage blitzes. he's betting on Devin White getting to the quarterback before the quarterback has the time to even see a receiver breaking down the field. So here's the second play. This should have been a sack. And I have to give Jameis a lot of credit. All those bobbing and weaving type of drills where he's doing all that stuff.
All the workouts are paying off.
They're paying off, right? Because he ducked a sack from Devin White, even though White kind of came more under control on another delayed blitz. But it was enough to keep Winston in the pocket. And because he had the duck, he couldn't see any of his receivers. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and Vita had a Washington Husky sandwich. And Jameis Winston was in the middle of it. Here goes that film. Again, watch the delay blitz from Devin White. Here he comes. He's not in the A-gap. He misses. The pocket collapses. We'll see it again. It's something where he is delayed. He's a couple yards off the ball. He still gets there so fast because Devin White might be the fastest inside linebacker in the game. We'll play it again. You can see the pocket collapse. JTS doing a good job. With the right tackle Ryan Ramczyk, Vita getting pressure up the middle, and that this new little wrinkle, this delayed blitz, this delayed rush, I think is making a world of difference because it's allowing Devin to come in a little bit more under control, but just as fast and get to the quarterback, man.
And that speed is perfect for a delayed situation. If you had a slower linebacker, he doesn't get there in time, and Jameis hits, the deep ball to the receiver that Lavonte David was trying to cover on that play. So the speed makes up for a ton of it. And he's also such a threatening blitzer and pass rusher that it's confusing the team, the offensive line at the line of scrimmage in multiple ways for all the ways that you just pointed out. But I think one of my favorite times was when Devin faked like he was going to blitz. This was on the sack. It was a sack for Lavonte David, but it was nullified because of a roughing the passer on Keanu Neal. But Devin was up at the line of scrimmage, then obviously faked like he was going to blitz. Then he dropped back in coverage. So the offensive lineman in front of him, of course, they blitzed Neal on the side as well. So the offensive lineman went from, oh, I got to block Devin White to, oh, he's not blitzing now. Let me go help the offensive tackle. Moved all the way over, which opened things up for Lavonte David on what should have been a sack. So Devin White is helping the pass rush when he's rushing and when he's not rushing at all. He's really helping in so many different ways. And, he talked about how much that he has to improve this year after he wasn't happy with what he did in 2021. So far in 2022, he's absolutely living up to it, whether it's leading the team in tackles, in sacks. He's doing everything for this team. And he's done a lot better in pass coverage too, which obviously was, something that we really, have harped on him for.
Exactly. Here's Devin White here, right? He takes the tight end Troutman, right out of the backfield, or I should say up the line of scrimmage. No wasted motion. He's locked in. I think Devin White would be guilty a little bit in the past of looking in the backfield and losing sight of the tight end or the back he was covering. You see right there, Devin White just mirroring Troutman, nowhere to go with the ball. This is great eye discipline, staying with his target, and making that cut when Troutman makes it, taking him out of the play. And it's been fun to see Devin White evolve as a good coverage player. I think he had a 90 coverage grade, if my memory serves it, against the Saints on Sunday, according to Pro Football Focus. Only Mike Edwards had a higher coverage grade, so great to see. One of the things about Devin White is, and if you pay attention to the Pewter Game Day show, which we're going to have for you again this week, and that's going to be right after the Pewter Report tailgate show. That's live in-game analysis with Matt Matera and Paul Atwall this week. That's right, Paul Atwall returns. 425, that's 3 hours of live in-game analysis that we break down the Bucs games better than anybody. Matt does a great job, and we've got Paul back to really kind of talk about this Bucs offense. He knows it inside and out. But one of the great things about this is every time the Buccaneers get a pick or a fumble or a sack, well, it's a Pirate Republic plunder moment. And nobody is plundering better right now than Devin White, who's leading the team with 3 sacks. And that's certainly one of the best numbers in the league right now. And I asked Lavonte David, how many sacks, what's the ceiling that Devin White could get this year? And he's like, oh, man, I didn't want to think about it because he's already got 3 in the first 2 games with 15 to go. But folks, Pirate Republic, I'm enjoying this great Long John Pilsner. It's a fantastic beer. As you know, Pirate Republic is the official beer of Pewter Report, and they're brewed out of the Bahamas. It doesn't get more pirate than that, folks. Pirate Republic, they've got 3 amazing beers that are available here in the Tampa Bay area, and they're invading the state of Florida. They're available in participating Total Wine and More, ABC Liquors, Lucan's Liquors, and Party Liquors as well. So make sure you're grabbing a 6-pack of the Long John Pilsner or the Golden Haze of Piracy Belgian Wheat Beer, and a 4-pack of the big boys there. That's the Take No Quarter IPA, which is fantastic. I'll spend just a minute here telling you about the Long John Pilsner. It is the lightest beer. It's the crisp, refreshing Pilsner. And this is the kind of beer when you're looking to go to the game on Sunday that you can bring and tailgate with, because it's crushable. You can have several of these. They're not heavy. They're packed with flavor, though. They've got the toasted Munich malt that really brings out the depth. It's an absolutely fantastic beer. Folks, we've had other local beer companies try to partner with us in the past to become the official beer of Pewter Report, and it just hasn't worked out because the quality wasn't up to our standards. And we love all 3 of these beers, don't we, Matt?
We love all 3. My personal favorite is the Long John Pilsner, but I've been on the Belgian wheat beer the past couple of times that I've had it, so been high on that. And of course, the Take No Quarters IPA, can't go wrong with that. Scott, the Bucs were getting so many sacks and creating so many turnovers that during the live stream with Casey and I, Pirate Republic got a ton of air. Pirate Republic got more airtime than Casey and myself, because every other play they were getting a sack. Like that 4th quarter might as well just been the Pirate Republic logo, because it was interception, fumble, sack. That's what it was for like the entire 4th quarter.
Fumble.
It was that over and over and over. So they come in bunches. So anytime you see that graphic on the live stream, just know that another one is coming very, very soon.
And that should signal you that you should grab a Pirate Republic Long John Pilsner from your fridge and crack it open and enjoy it, because the Buccaneers defense just made a great play. So, Matt, as we kind of finish up this show here, I think that one of the things too is they still don't have David Bakhtiari in there at left tackle, right? And I think that's still a bit of a weakness. They've got Yosh Ninjaman, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He stepped in at left tackle, and he's done an okay job. He's been a player that has been a credible player there. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has been under too much duress throughout the start of the season, but at the same time, neither the Vikings nor the Bears have the pass rushers that the Buccaneers do. Aaron Rodgers has been sacked 7 times this season so far. He's not as mobile as he used to be, right? So I do think there's some opportunities here for the Buccaneers to exploit this Green Bay Packers offensive line. Again, like most teams, we don't see exceptional guard play anymore. This wasn't like the 80s and the 90s where you had guys like Will Shields and Randall McDaniel, and Larry Allen, these Hall of Fame guards. I just think that really outside of maybe Quentin Nelson, Ali Marpet's retired now. There's just not as many quality guards. And you've got John Runyon, who's a better pass protector than he is a run blocker at one guard. Royce Newman is the other guard. I just think that they're kind of susceptible there. They're not going to have Akeem Hicks. We're going to see more Logan Hall as a result, Matt, up front. And I think that the rookie and Rakeem Nunez-Roches, they're going to have to kind of fill up for that void that Hicks, has, not just against the run, but the pass rush that Hicks can bring.
Yeah, that's really something where I think a lot of us are going to really be honing in on Logan Hall to see if he can step it up with the pass rush. He's made some splash plays. Talk about that, that tackle for loss against the Cowboys when Zach Martin was blocking him, if I'm not mistaken. So we're talking about one of the better guards in the league. But, with Nacho, we know what we're going to get with Nacho. He's a run-stopping guy. He's loud and vocal, but we love Nacho, but he's never been known for his pass rushing ability. Right. So I think that's where the Bucs are really going to have to rely on Hall. Will Golston obviously had a career high in sacks last season, so he's very capable of getting to the pass rusher. And, you look at the Packers offensive line, if you want to compare like the Bucs and Packers offenses, I think a lot of the times it's very it's almost a wash with a lot of it. Like, you look at the Bucs offensive line, the Packers offensive line, I would say for the most part, it's a wash, but the Bucs do have some of the advantage with like the star player, the best player in each unit. Like Tristan Wirfs, he's the best of the bunch if you're taking both offensive lines.
Yeah.
The wide receiver position, with Mike Evans suspended, it's a wash between the Bucs receivers and the Packers receivers. Now, if Julio plays, then you're talking about star player.
Right.
The Bucs have the advantage there. Brady, Rodgers, we don't really have to get into that. Two great all-time quarterbacks, and Bucs fans are going to pick Brady. Packers fans are going to pick, Aaron Rodgers. I would go with Brady, but nonetheless.
Right.
And then really the only separation is the running back room. And with tight ends as well, I think I'd give the edge to Tunyon a little bit more than, Cam Brate and kind of the tight end by committee they have going there. But running back, like Leonard Fournette, you could argue, is he better than Aaron Jones? It's a close call.
Right.
But you talk about the, Dillon and Jones versus Lenny and Rashad White and maybe Keyshawn Vaughn. That's a clear win for the Packers. But I think for the most part, it's a wash, like all across the board, really, except for like the running back position. So I see for the Packers, like offensive line, this is their biggest test because they haven't had to face someone like Shaq Barrett or Joe Tryon-Shoyinka or blitzing Devin White. So we've talked a lot about how this is a big test for like the Bucs defense, but this is a huge test for the Packers offensive line. And
it really is.
If they can help Aaron Rodgers, because that was the key to beating Aaron Rodgers more specifically in that regular season game than in the playoffs, but they were able to get to Rodgers and it changed everything.
You got Alan Lazard, who's only got 3 targets this year, right? You have Randall Cobb, who's, shell of his former self, still somebody Aaron Rodgers will go to, but just not the dynamic playmaker that he has been. And Christian Watson, the Tampa kid, has not really made any type of impact at all. He's been a bit of a disappointment so far up there in Green Bay as a second-round pick. The guy that was drafted in the 4th round, Romeo Doubs, who I liked out of Nevada, has actually been a more dynamic playmaker for Rodgers so far. So very much like Tampa, their wide receiving position is kind of in a state of flux right now, just like the Buccaneers. They don't have Mike Evans, the Rodgers, and the Packers offense doesn't have Davante Adams. The good news for the Bucs, Mike Evans is going to be back. Davante Adams, though, is gone. He's in Vegas. So it will be interesting to see. I think you're going to see kind of a mirror effect between Rodgers and the Packers offense trying to run the ball and be balanced, and the same thing from Tampa Bay. So it's really, again, which offense can perform best against these tough defenses on 3rd down, and can the Buccaneer defense be more dynamic in terms of getting to Rodgers than the likes of Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith will be in getting to Tom Brady. And then, of course, the Packers, they rely on Rasul Davis and Jair Alexander, shutdown corners, and Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis have already proven out of the gate that there's some shutdown corners too. So I think that really this is a mirror opposite team here that can look in the mirror and see some real similarities between the Bucs offense right now and the Packers offense right now and the Packers defense right now and Tampa Bay's offense right now. It should be one hell of a fun game to watch. I give the advantage to the Buccaneers. They just seem to have Rodgers and the Packers number. This is also the home opener, Matt. Should be a fun game Sunday at 4:25 at Raymond James Stadium.
Yes, it will be. Fans are going to be going wild. It's going to be a ton of fun, especially because they're undefeated going back home. If they had split their first 2 games, it still would have been like a raucous crowd. But the fact that they're undefeated, they're in the driver's seat in the NFC South, and a lot of expectations this year. Obviously there's going to be a ton of excitement, and we're talking about 2 quarterbacks, Scott, that are up there in age. Brady's
getting close to retirement.
Yeah, getting close to retirement. Rodgers a little bit younger than Brady, but not by much. But when you talk about older players and retirement, you got to make sure what you're doing right with your money. And if you want to do things right, I think the best thing you could do is partner with Immuni Financial.
At Immuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you? Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it. All right. Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Muni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Managing your family's wealth means more to Muni Financial than simply allocating your assets. It means legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, and insurance services. With over 40 years of experience here in the Tampa Bay area, let Muni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. They can also help you from around the country too. So not just here in the state of Florida. Do what I did. Call Muni Financial. Talk to David and Mark and the great folks over there. Give them a call at 1-800-868-6864 and schedule a risk-free, no-obligation consultation and get a second opinion in this wild, wacky financial world that we're living in right now with inflation. You want the folks at Muni on your side to help navigate these bumpy waters. Visit them on the web at immuni.com. Well, Matt, as we're winding down here, we appreciate everybody with the super chats. That was great today. We appreciate a lot of folks over there in Australia and a couple of first-time people that were able to donate to the show today. Make sure that you check out pewterreport.com. That's our website for the best Bucs coverage, breaking news. We have a ton of information and news that happens on the team on a regular basis, year-round. We even focus on free agency and the draft. Make sure you're following Pewter Report on social media, especially on YouTube. That's our Pewter Report TV channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're approaching 9,400 subscribers. So thank you, Pewter people. We love you guys. And make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Pewter Report. And Matt, I think this was probably the best episode we've ever done on Pewter Report's podcast.
We did it, Scott. We did it. Yep. The greatest show of all time in Pewter Report history.
That's awesome. We appreciate everybody's comments and participation today. This wouldn't be possible without you, Pewter people. We genuinely love you. We love to see a lot of familiar faces and new faces here in the Pewter Report podcast chat. And make sure that you are with us on Sunday, starting at 2 hours prior to kickoff. That is 2:30 Eastern time for the Celsius Pewter Report tailgate show. That's live here on YouTube. So you don't have to go to walk-ons to hear the show. You can watch it on the web. That's presented by Age Rejuvenation. Then right after that, Matt Matera and Paul Atwall for live in-game analysis with Pewter Game Day at 4:25. It's where you want to be on Sundays. And, of course, we have our Pewter Report post-game podcast after that. So when you want Buccaneer news, one place to turn, Pewter Report with the Pewter Report podcast. From Matt Matera, I'm Scott Reynolds, saying we'll see you tomorrow when Matt Matera and JC Allen try to top this show and have the best Pewter Report podcast ever. And I think they're going to do it. So we'll see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast.
Out.